So good afternoon, everyone. We start as usual. It is Ghana Heritage Month, and that doesn't mean in our heritage we do not connect with God. So wherever you are, some may decide not to close their eyes, keep open, but we are praying a very short one. So we pray in the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. So Father, we thank you for this opportunity given us to use the power of literature to explore sensitive issues regarding our way of life as Ghanaians and Africans at large, and perhaps not part of the world. It is our favorite prayer that God, you use this medium to address issues that seem to be disturbing so many homes, so that we know that we are, because others are, we are fellows in one ship for a common fellowship, that we are each other's keeper, that in all we do, you have a reason for that happening. We pray that you empower our panelists and our audience to engage properly, literally, in the spirit of Ghana's heritage. We thank you, believing, for a very prosperous ending of this session. We say, Amen.
Amen.
Okay, so prayer said we need to do brief introductions. But then before we do that, it is very important for us to know the very reason we are having this session. Actually, we are so much aware of this book. Let me do a bit of blood reading. The book in focus is Pieces of the Portraits, and that is it. Pieces of the Portraits. We have the author has opened up and shared her story in a powerful way that will move the reader. Her story will help those who have gone through similar experiences to heal and to save future generations from going through similar experiences. The author shares some of her mistakes, survival strategies, and some lessons she has learned over the years. The fact that she survived to where she is in life today serves as an encouragement that you rise against all odds to succeed in life by faith in God. For parents, this book shares some important strategies on how to protect and empower our daughters. It questions some of the traditional approaches we have adopted as a society in dealing with problems that girls face, like understanding their bodies and sexuality. It boldly touches on taboo issues like rape, sexual abuse, pedophilia, and incest, which are very prevalent in our society, but swept under the rug to protect society at large, while the victims are left to suffer in silence. This book tells us some uncomfortable truths we need to hear so that we can sit up and protect the precious girls and women God has put in our lives. So, ladies and gentlemen, the last part of the blurb says this book tells us some uncomfortable truths we need to hear so that we can sit up and protect the precious girls and women God has put in our lives. Exactly is one of the foci for this meeting. We're going to look at issues that are very sensitive, we are able to talk about. But then we want to explore the power of books. So, like I mentioned earlier, we are going to have the power of literature. That is what is written. We read and then we share our respective experiences. And we have people who have lived a life, survived it, and then are moving on. We need to come to understanding of what the world has for us. And those to join us in this read and converse session, of course, we have the host. That's for now. Let's go, Mrs. Linda Ampah. She's an author. She's the CEO of Fertility Fashion. She's doing amazing work with this same book, moving from one school to another, putting girls and boys together, and use the power of literature through a book to encourage them, counsel them, and guide them using other resource persons. And so she's decided that we should have sessions like this so that people beyond classrooms, those in the homes, will also have access to this information, because eventually if you go and talk to the children, parents are not aware, the work will not be well done. So this, she decided to come here. So we have Mrs. Linda Ampah, who is author and CEO of Academic Fashion, who is the host of this, and she is the author of the Book of Focus. Then we have to deal with people who work within the space, people who have experience dealing with patients, dealing with other people sharing same problems. And so we have Dr. Thelma Sari, who is from the Department of Obstetrics and Gynecology, Capital Women's Care. Then we have Lani Fuja. This name I've been practicing information. I hope I got it right. Luna Fuja, who is the founder, Lifestyle Foundation. And then we have Mercy Minta Jampo, who is the Executive Director, Tribe Resources and Pharmaceuticals Limited. And of course, you are also going to be part of the panelists at the latter part. So we have some to lead us in this read and converse. And then when it's time for conversations, we all step in. Of course, we're going to have some people who have lived such life, share their experience, and then we have questions and answers. In this case, there's no teacher here. We are all teachers and we are all students. So when it's time for questions and answers, you just throw the question based on the conversation you have had input. So these are those who are going to lead the read and converse sessions, but we all part. So we're going to start by reading from chapter 11 of the book, and it is titled Struggles and Breakthrough. We have our resource persons who know very much, they are very much aware which one they're reading, but we start with Dr. Sari. And I think we are doing some good to almost everyone here. Those who do not have the opportunity to get a book, there'll be screen sharing so we can get along. And we have Dr. Sari, and then after Dr. Sari, we're going to have Madam Mercy, Madam Laurie, and Auntie Linda, in that order.
This is from chapter 11, Struggles and Breakthrough. After a few years of marriage, the inquisitive eyes began looking at me in a funny way, and tongues started wagging. Look at this woman who married this fine gentleman, and now she cannot have children. The first of this came from the very women's fellowship I belonged to. These were mature women, I thought, who met regularly to pray and study the Word of God. Sometimes disappointment comes from the very people you put your trust in. At this stage in my life, I was determined not to allow anything or anyone to stop or derail me from the course I had charted for myself. I had come to learn that Christians also make mistakes, and big mistakes for that matter. I had come to learn that Christians fall and still fall flat on their faces, and it was all okay. After all, a man's enemies can be the members of his own household. I had completely surrendered my life to Christ, and therefore, who else could hurt me but brothers and sisters in Christ? It was painful to hear that a prayer topic as personal as this would be a topic for gossip. I know people who have left the faith because of such behavior. We need to prop each other up in prayer, not to use same for gossip. Church folks can be real agents of the devil, I should say, if they allow themselves to be used. We can all be tools for the devil if we allow him. He's walking to and fro, seeking whom he may devour. Let us not give the enemy a foothold in our churches and fellowships. I have a big problem with the indiscreet nature of our deliverance and prayer sessions. I think people are most vulnerable at such times, and putting them on show is worrisome. I have been trying to figure out what the purpose is. I also see others who show kindness by covering the faces of these beautiful people of God. Let us show love by protecting the people who come to us for prayer, counseling, and fellowship. Let us show love by protecting them rather than exposing them. We have cloths to cover the women when they fall on the ground, which is good. But let us go further to keep their prayer topics discreet and pray for them. Let us also protect their identities. For my part, I had to take the women's gossip about my infertility in good faith and move on. After all, it was the truth. So what was the big deal? I told myself. I did let go because I had learned that taking offense was very dangerous for a Christian's faith and counter to the Lord's teaching. I had come too far to be set back again. I also knew that if I did not let go quickly of some of those things, I could fall back into my old ways. Offense is what will take someone out of the fellowship. Jesus' teaching on offense in Luke chapter 17, verses 1 to 5 is a warning to those of us who are in the faith. Let us not be the ones through whom offense comes. Woe to him through whom they do come. I prayed about it, and the Lord graciously helped me to let go. My business was going well by the grace of God, and I kept pressing on. I started dressing up a few TV presenters and was called one day to the TV3 station to be a judge of a beauty pageant, their new reality show, which was about to start. The idea sounded very interesting. The 10 ladies who will be selected from the 10 regions of Ghana at the time will be housed for 13 weeks, during which they will undergo grooming and giving lectures and briefing on culture to help them represent their regions very well. I discussed the idea with my husband, and we both liked the idea, so I quickly jumped on board. I was particularly thrilled with the aspect on culture and tradition, which is the focus of the show. I was also excited about the reality bit of it. I had taken part in a beauty pageant before, so this was familiar grounds for me. The whole write-up sounded brilliant. I liked the fact that I could influence the lives of young women to some extent. I love being in fashion. I liked helping people look good, so I was in heaven. My fear was that I had enough things going on in my life, and adding television to it certainly was going to be a challenge. I'm a very private person, and now I'll be in everybody's homes when the show was going on, giving them a chance to dissect me. The show started. Yeah. The show started, and I was enjoying it due to the facts stated above. My co-judge was Ifo Kojo Maube, who I loved very much, and we worked well together. I learned a lot from him as an artist and a Christian. Soon we prayed together, especially at the end of the season, when we had to prepare for the final show. When he came to beauty, he would say, Linda, I had it, Enyemi area, meaning that is not my area, so I defer to you, Linda. Although he was extremely knowledgeable in culture and tradition, he would allow me to set questions and he reviewed them with me. His death was a big blow to me because a girl like me loves deeply. No one does not come easily to me. I had struggled to find someone like him to work with, and it had been difficult. I almost quit after his death, knowing that there would never be another Ifukuju that I could get on so well with. I enjoyed working with him very much. An excellent professional. May his gentle soul rest in peace.
The baby issue was pending. However, my life was too busy anyway, and I kept wondering where the child would even fit in. I did not have a mother who would stay at home and help me if I did have a child, and I could not see myself stopping my busy life for a child. If it came by itself, then sure, I would work around the pregnancy and baby. But to go out there and seek help meant putting a hold to my busy schedule. Carl and I started talking about it. He assured me of his love and reiterated that he did not marry me to make babies. And if the Lord chose to bless us with any, we would thank him. But if he chose not to, we would still bless and worship him. It really did not matter. During this period in our lives, we were holding prayer meetings in our home every week. People were receiving their healing and miracles were called. People were receiving their healing and miracles were taking place all the time. We had a circle time, as we called it. This was a time when one person would stand in the middle of the group and share their prayer topic. We prayed earnestly for every topic that came up. Every time a prayer request. Everyone thought our need was children, and this was always our prayer request by default. It was very frustrating for me. I enjoyed the fellowship, but dreaded the circle time. We hosted the meetings out of love for fellowship, but I felt like everybody prayed the hardest when it was our time in the circle, and the prayer was not being answered. We saw many miracles take place during that period. Soon the fellowship became so large that we could not fit into our living room, and the air conditioners could not cool the room enough because of the number. People brought extra fans to make it a bit bearable. My business was thriving and all was going well. The desire to have children was not on top of our agenda, especially with my fashion career advancing at the same time. After about 2 years, we realized there was the need to seek medical assistance. This was after temperature testing and all kinds of bedmatics that were supposed to aid conception. In addition to praying along with the brethren, we consulted herbalists, homeopathists, and eventually fertility specialists. We also tried orthodox medicine for a couple of months, then switched to the others also for a few months. We kept going back and forth. I remember my auntie-in-law sending us a, please scroll, sending us a gallon of some sort of concoction. This alcohol-based medicine was supposed to do the trick. We were each supposed to drink a tot 3 times a day. Both my husband and I did not take alcohol at all. And here we were literally drunk every day of the week. After a week of headaches, probably from the alcohol intake, we decided we did not stop. If we did not stop, we would end up becoming alcoholics. Thank you. Oh, it's still my page, sorry. We finally decided to continue with the orthodox method, since at this point, the others had all failed. I knew of couples who had had great success with herbal and traditional medicine, so I was hopeful. But unfortunately, it did not work for me, just as orthodox medicine has also worked for others. There are many also, on the other hand, who have not had much success. There were other medicines that had to be vaginally inserted. Some of these treatments eventually gave me all kinds of infections. It is amazing when we get obsessed with the idea of childbearing. All our intellect gets locked up somewhere and we do not question anything. That was the state I was in, at least I think so. You see the filth in the fingernails of a medicine man, herbalist, and you go ahead to insert a concoction he gives you without question. The Lord has really delivered me from many things. I am not condemning herbal medicine, far from it. I know people have been blessed with children through these methods. Others have received their healing, etc. Having said that, sometimes the conditions under which some of these practitioners operate can be quite worrying, to say the least. It is heartwarming to see all the improvements made today in herbal medicine. I honestly believe if support is given to that sector, it will ease a lot of healthcare costs for many families.
I'm going to take it off from there.
Yes.
We were seeing a specialist at the Ghana Police Hospital after trying everything else. He had been highly recommended by a number of people. At that time, it was setting up a fertility specialist hospital. So we decided to do a few test runs in his office, while we waited for his hospital to be ready. After a number of failed attempts, we tried a few other doctors while we waited for his fertility hospital to be ready. In between these attempts, I did laparoscopy and fibroid removal operation. The most humiliating experience was meeting one of the fertility specialists who did not have a fully equipped clinic, and therefore I had to go and do a test in one of the government teaching hospitals. My husband had traveled, so I had gone alone with the doctor's request form. I presented my form, and after waiting for about 10 minutes, I was called in by a young man. When I entered the lab, there were 3 young men. I was hoping there was a female nurse coming to join them, and so I sat down waiting. One of them said, "Auntie Linda, please take your skirt and panty off." I was like a zombie. After, just hold on, to the next page. Okay, after all, I was already in. I had to do this test and present it to my doctor. I undressed in the full glare of this young man. I cried throughout that specimen taking procedure. I could not look at them in the face when it was all over. It was the most humiliating experience in my adult life. I could not bring myself to go back there to collect the result of that test. We decided to wait till the specialist hospital opened. Meanwhile, my husband and I were helping to pay school fees of wards of some friends and families. It usually looks as if in Ghana, we do not have children of our own. Everyone thinks they are decided. Everyone thinks they can decide what you should do with your money. They do not know, okay? They don't have children, so what do they use their money for? Carl had heard from a secondary source about a family friend who needed help in paying his children's school fees. We decided the issue and prayed about it before deciding to find out more about the situation and how we could support. At that time, Carl was about to travel. He asked me to call and make the inquiry. I called and spoke to the wife. I asked which school the child attended and the cost of the school fees. The fees were high, and I explained. Why so much? I could guess it did not go. I could guess it did not go down well, and she passed the information on to her husband. About an hour or so later, I got a call from my husband. He told me things that I cannot write about. The only one I can write is, how would you have known about the children when you do not have one of yourself? This marked the turning point of my prayers to the Lord for a child. It did hit me very hard, and I decided to take my pain and anger to the Lord in prayer. I reminded the Lord of all the good I'd done for the kingdom and continue to do. I prayed like Ezekiel did in Isaiah 38:5. I'm sorry about that, 30:5. If there was a good time I wanted a child, it was at this point that I became very desperate. My husband had traveled and I was all alone in the house. So I turned all the tears to the Lord. I then understood Anna's prayer that caught God's attention, similar to what had happened in 1 Samuel 1. I was crushed in soul. I was inconsolable and made a vow that if the Lord blessed me with a child, I would dedicate the child to him and I would tell him the word about his goodness. I then understood what the Bible said about Anna's groaning. At this point, we had literally used all our savings and even the money we're using to run the garment business. We had tried several times to have a child, but had been unsuccessful. We had arranged and had embryos that were ready to be implanted. I told the Lord to have mercy on me and take away this pain by blessing me with a child. By the mercies of God, we were successful about 10 years after 10 years of marriage. We included 8 years of all sorts of interventions. We're blessed with a beautiful baby girl, who is the loudest person in the family today. Throughout this experience, I learned so much. I also learned that at the end of the day, it is God who makes things possible in his own time. I also learned that you need to be in a certain place for your miracle to come. I'm not sure what place it is, but mine was after insult, when there was no one to talk to or to cry to. I was in a dark place at that moment. The night was very long, one for me, but I needed to be there for my miracle to happen. I needed to be in that place of real need where my prayer would really come from the bottom of my heart. God loves a broken heart and He turns it into a start. He deals with everyone as an individual, and we need to be mindful of that always. The way God has dealt with me on this matter would completely different from the way He would deal with you. I saw many who had babies after a year of praying to the Lord, and many who have prayed for years. He makes all things beautiful for each of us in His own time. Thank you, Dina.
During my 10 years of waiting on the Lord, I met many women in similar situations. I shared a ward in hospitals several times with different women who were also going through fertility treatments. I made friends with many of them. I remember there was an occasion that I was in the hospital for one of my many procedures. I shared a ward with a lady who was crying from the time I was admitted at about 10 a.m. till I fell asleep in the night. When I woke up, she was still crying. Anytime I tried to talk to her, the crying became even louder. The next morning, I approached her again, and this time she was a bit better. I asked why she was crying so much, and she told me the doctors had told her that she had no more eggs left. She had been trying for a child for over 17 years, and this was the latest news from the hospital. She had come from Côte d'Ivoire to Ghana for treatment and did not know how to break the news to her husband, whose family was about to kick her out of her matrimonial home because she could not have children. The only option left for her was to use donor egg, and she just won't hear that. She wanted her own DNA or nothing else. She was a bit advanced in age as well, so she did not have many options. I prayed with her for strength as she went back to Côte d'Ivoire that afternoon. What do you say to such a person? I continued to pray for her for a while. I do not know what happened to her or the marriage after she went back home. I also met women who told me they had been told they did not have wombs. Many could not hold down a pregnancy. It would just abort on its own. Some had to stay in the hospital throughout pregnancy. In all these situations, we need God to give us the grace to endure all the nasty things society may throw at us. We need God's grace to be patient and wait on Him. We need His grace to persevere, because it is tiring, frustrating, and can be painful. Sometimes we lose hope. Financial breakthrough, we need that because treatment is expensive. Supportive and trustworthy friends and family. We also need to be in good health for the treatment process. These and many more are needed for the fertility treatment journey. Our society often puts much pressure on women. When you are single, there's pressure on you to marry. I know of a young woman who was under so much pressure that any man who came along and showed any sign or interest in marriage, she was quickly trapped. Then in no time, they realized that they had made a sad mistake and became miserable, to say the least. There are also young men on the lookout for young women with wealthy backgrounds, and they go all out to trap such women. Neither of them gain. They end up entrapping each other. Once you succumb to the marriage pressure, then pressure to have children begins. After 1 year, if you don't have children, people begin to gossip behind you, and soon they say it to your face. They behave as if children are sold in the stores and one can just go and buy them when they have the money. If you belong to a church, then you have even more to deal with. You feature in every prayer meeting. The elderly women in the church will talk to you about all kinds of methods that can give you the desired results. Some mean well, but they do not realize how much pressure they put on a couple. Please, let us leave couples alone to deal with the fertility challenges that they are trying to overcome. Please pray for them, but they do not have to know. After all, the Lord shows us how to pray in Matthew 6:6. Please pray in private and let the couples be. The pressure can be too much and put some more stress on an already stressful situation. We know you love them and want to help, but kindly let them be. When you are finally blessed with a child, then the next phase of the pressure begins. If it's a boy, people start asking, are you not going to try for a girl? Or the boy needs a sibling to play with. You need to hurry up and get it over and done with, you know. People might mean well and want to seem to care, but can be supportive in a tactful way. There was a period when I stopped going to church on 31st night, and a number of Sundays following that. I just could not bear to hear a year by this time. I had had enough, and I was not ready to hear another word about childbirth. It was my way of getting some sanity. Let us leave young people alone. Finding the right spouse is not easy. Many couples have just settled in their marriages for various reasons. They already have children between them and might as well stay together and raise them. They are leaders in the church, and for the sake of the unity of the church, they cannot divorce. Finding another partner is too much of a hassle. They get satisfaction elsewhere, so there is no need, there's no time to live. There is financial stability in this one, so why move out? For all sorts of reasons, couples remain in their marriages. We do not want our young people to fall into such situations just to please society. If by the grace of God and probably by more education, our youth are more independent, and therefore they will not settle unless they find true love and meaning in a relationship. Please let us allow them. Having said that, there are many things that can make one happy. It's a stable home. And that does not mean having everything on your wish list as a young person. Be mindful of that. But love and understanding should feature greatly on your list. Let us not allow society to force us into anything, whether marriage or childbirth, because neither can be manufactured in a factory. It is all by grace and the mercies of God. I still hear comments like, oh, so is that it? Are you not going to try again? And now that I'm even older, what I hear most is that your baby last? Really? Thank you.
So thank you so much, our wonderful readers, and who happen to be our panelists. I'm sure those who do not have the book should try and get, and we'll try to get. After that, we'll try and see those of us who want to get it via Amazon. We're going to announce that. So this is such a beautiful piece, autobiography. I would even want to say it's a memoir, because certainly you are so young. However old you think you are, and no experience in life, even with this course you are touching the children. So there should be a part 2 of the autobiography. Yeah. So now at this point, we want to see, it is not just for the reading of the fun. We want to see what each reader deduced from whatever she read. And we want to start with Dr. Sari.
Well, this just confirms the, I guess, a Christian faith of my sister Linda, and the stressors that are put on people. I'm in the US, and it's the same thing here. Perhaps we are not as church going here as in Ghana on the African diaspora, but It is the same thing that is done here. And I warn my patients when they get married, I said, they're not saying it to you, but they're going to start talking about when are you going to make a baby. So just be aware. And the only time I ever asked anybody about children is in my role as a physician. I never asked anybody outside because I tell people, I know this for a fact, that there are some who are looking to have children who cannot. And believe me, there are some who do not want children. So that is this also. So you're careful to go and ask that. But yes, what I took from my part of the reading was just the how mean and insensitive people can be, even in places where you think they should not be.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. And we now move to Madam Mercy. I want to see your view from the pages you have read.
I want to talk about what happens in the church setting. I have been through the same experience, and there have been instances where there's a prayer meeting and it seems like it's a prayer topic they want to pray about, but in a gossip manner for me. And just as we read in the book, if we are praying, we could pray for them in their closet, but they would raise a topic and say, oh, let's pray for sister and brother so and so to have children. And then somebody will say, are you sure they led righteous lives, or maybe they did something in the past that may be haunting them and they need to confess their sins for God to intervene, and at that time, these were instances where I was also going through the same issue. So it's like, yes, they are talking about somebody, but it could mean me as well. Yeah. And for me, I saw it as a way of gossip, in a very discreet manner. And sometimes it is very humiliating. So it gets to a point you don't even want to associate. Yeah. Or when they call for people who want children to step out to the altar for prayers. And it's very embarrassing. So I just want to say that in such instances, it's better you pray in your closet to support them rather than do it in the open, which is very, very embarrassing sometimes. And then also with the fertility treatments, I remember I was also once into that cycle, and there were these women were all in the same ward, and they were both pregnant. I had just had my transfer and was waiting for my test to be run. And these two women quarreled so much that they both lost their pregnancies. Oh. And they were discharged from the hospital. And I was like, so don't you know why you are here? So for me, I see it as a way of them losing focus and then losing the very essence of why they were there. So this fertility issue comes with a lot of challenges, but I believe that we all learn from our experiences. Thank you.
Madam Larry, can we see your view from the pages you have read?
All right. Okay, so I always say that starting with the end in mind and believing and trusting in the process. If you realize that at the point where Linda connected with God and left everything to him, she was stronger. She was able to weather the storm despite things that, were thrown at her. So yes, it's really the example of a typical, even in Nigeria, where I am from, these cultural challenges or barriers there. So it's just what we face. However, having the end in mind, being focused, knowing your condition does not define who you are, and not even letting go of your career because of the journey you're on, which is not in your control. I think that's where I would say she drew, a strength from. So just to keep it simple is to say that just stay focused. It's just God's grace, just as she said. It's not, I tell people, it's not a scientific process, because if it's where, even the doctors would, definitely give you the results just at the beginning of that journey. Yes, so that's my little piece, while we'll say more when we dive into it. So.
Well, and I'm not telling that. It would be a bit ironic to ask you what you took from that reading, because that's your story. Anyway, once you are part of the panelists, maybe at a point in time when you are reading a book, there's that experience and inspiration that comes. So reading this one away from the life you have lived, what comes in mind?
Oswald, you weren't very clear. Can you say that again, please?
Well, I said that we all know you are the author of the book.
Okay.
So that is your life you've written there. I know at times you are reading a book and it comes with different experience. So in this context, having heard from what your colleague readers have said, and in this context, in this feeling, what do you have to share with us from the previous you read?
So you rightly said that I should share another of my stories. So that's why I call this pieces of the portrait. So this is just one piece. You realize that in this chapter, I talked about different things. I talked about the faith. I talked about medicine, traditional medicine. I talked about orthodox medicine. So there were 3 different arms to this. So a woman going through fertility in our society is not a joke at all. So I'm sure Dr. Sari would speak to this. But when you go to the hospital, apart from you, the woman being tested for all sorts of things, the man is also tested. And in a lot of cases, the man has an issue. No sperm count, but no, after that one, we don't want to talk about that one. It is always the woman. I know women who have gone through fertility issues, not because the women had problems, it was the man. The man had no sperm at all. But the guy's family would not give her peace of mind. And she couldn't also tell them that this was the problem. So there are many things that women have to deal with. The church matter is major. I don't know, maybe Laurie, I don't know about the Islam faith, but Christianity, we give so much pressure to our young couples. The woman especially, as soon as 1 year after, in some cases actually, when you do have a child early, they will begin to calculate backwards. So it means that you were pregnant when you got married. That one too is another problem. And if it's too late to, there's a problem. So all the spiritual somersaulting and jumping and all sorts of things. You go through all of that. Then, as Mercy said, the prayer topics that we don't know whether it's really prayer topic or it's just people just want to gossip about it. And even if they genuinely pray about it, after the church meeting, they are going to gossip about it and begin to look at your life before marriage. We knew it. She was that, so it's a lot of pressure. That alone might not even let somebody get pregnant. That stress alone, because it's not everybody who can even take that kind of stress. So it's out of all of this that I decided to share my story, that I'm sure there are many women who are going through what I went through. And then, as I said, after you have had 1, 2, where is the sibling coming from? I think you have to go, you can go and buy it from ShopRite or something. So they are asking you, when is the sibling coming? Oh, she needs a brother. So you need to try. So are you going to leave it like this? You know, and then, of course, how I ended it, I was even laughing at it myself that now that I'm older, oh, that's your last baby, eh? Oh, lovely. So how many do you have? Why do you think I have many children? Why should you even ask that? You know, some of these things, we say it out of ignorance, and I don't know, we are just so insensitive as a people. I think that some generally do not mean harm, but we say it, and then you let somebody go home and begin to think. I mean, I've passed that stage where these things worry me, but there are many who are very, very, very worried, and they get concerned and they are stressed and they cry and they get emotional and they fall into depression and all sorts of things. You know, so that's my piece, and I hope that somebody gets something. But I think Dr. Asari will share more light on why some of the issues that causes infertility, and other remedies for somebody who does not have money to go through IVF, for instance. Is there a way? And really, is having children the way to heaven? Is that the only thing a woman should do? What is wrong with a woman who cannot have children? Is it the end of the world for them? Why are we defining women by the children? First, you are defined by you're married. Is she married? Oh, she doesn't even know what she's talking about. They don't even respect you because you are not married. When you are married to her, you don't have children, so that one is another. Oh, why? What have we done to the world? You know, so Dr. Asari, I think that maybe for the benefit of those who are seeking help, maybe you can throw more light on that. But Oswald, that's just my bit.
Well, thank you. I know anytime you speak about the book and look at the issues, I've been with you for some time. I know your emotions begin to rise. And it's the very reason why we should encourage a lot of people to try and get to writing. Because sometimes you cannot keep all of these with you. One, it becomes therapeutic because you may be trying to get out some problems, some issues out of you. But most importantly, you never know. Someone picks the book and the person is so much encouraged. So around this time, I think we want to share some experience from two of our panelists, their personal experience. But then I want to give opportunity from the readers. Is there any question you want to ask the author? So now it's 3 against 1. Maybe in the course of reading, something came up in your mind. You might have thought, why could you have done this? Why didn't you do this? Or you thought something should be there. So in the next 5 minutes, I think the 3, can we have the panelists ask the author any question from what you read? Maybe before I get to questions and answers. So Dr. Tomasari from the Department of Obstetrics and Gynecology, Capital Women's Care. We have Madam Mesminta Jampo, who's the Executive Director, Tri Resources and Pharmaceuticals. We have Nari Fuja, who is the founder of Lifestyle Foundation, and Aunt Linda, who is the author and host of this event, author of the book, and she's the CEO for Cuddling Fashion. So, Dr. Asari, is there any question you want to ask Aunt Linda as an author, not a friend?
No, I don't. I think everything is pretty self-explanatory. I've read the book before, so it's good to read it again, but I don't really have any questions. I mean, what I'm sitting here thinking, I should say this now before I forget, is that, I think infertility over in Ghana and I guess, in Africa, since we are highly religious and practice, Christianity, now you have that layer on top of it there. That is not the case in this country. I live in the US. So, yes, infertility is a big problem, but you don't have the sorry church or religious stuff being thrown on you, making it look like you did something bad. That's why you can't, have children. Over here is just a medical issue. Still stressful, but you don't have, the church people doing their prayer vigils and things and putting extra stress on you. You're still stressful. And like any places, I think it's just a problem for women all around that, as I tell people, as long as you have breast and a uterus, the expectation is that you must want children. And my own mother, my best friend, never wanted children. She's part of H, she's Ghanaian, she had family, big family. She never wanted children. And my mother's first thought was, what's wrong with her? There's absolutely nothing wrong with her. when you see her and the way she lives and things, she's very right not to have children. She never wanted any. I myself, took me a minute to have children. And I remember telling my mother, so like, are you trying to say that if I do not have children, now my life was worth nothing? Oh, no, that's not what you mean. But, so it's always the but. And again, you have patients come over, they have a girl, I must have a boy. Or I have a girl, I must have this. And my joke, as you tell Linda, as you said, was I always tell them, it's not in a grocery store. You can't just go buy one. I mean, well, now with science, you can go do that if you feel that strongly about it. But, you can, it's your chance. Just had a patient in my office, 6 boys, and she's asking, when can I have the next one? And my joke to her was, who's the husband? Because, men decide the sex. So if this man has given you 6 boys, guess what? The next one probably will be a boy. But this is how we are. We're never satisfied. You have 1 when you have 2. You have 2 when you have 3.
Sure.
But I do feel that, over in Ghana, it is particularly burdensome because you have the added stress of religion placed upon it. And it makes it very difficult because if you practice your religion, you go to church and all eyes are on you, as opposed to here where it's between you and your doctor, you see. So that's a problem. And yes, the whole thing of making it look as if women are the prime reason for infertility, that one is not just there. I was amazed. I left Ghana very early, and I remember coming back to Ghana in 1992 and going to Kuala Lumpur, and there's a so-called infertility clinic, and I looked out, it was all women. And I wondered, I'm like, where are the men? And so I asked, and this was a head of department, say, Dr. Anese, if the men have a problem, you can't tell the men. And I was just, I was just shocked. They wouldn't. The men don't come, and so it's always the women's fault. And infertility is 40% women, 40% men, and 20% unexplained. So, and the only test they must do is one. That's it. Everything else is on the women. I tell my patients, you drag him there, let him get tested first before they torture you, because the rest is very painful. If he is shooting 0, then why put yourself through stuff? I mean, you can go and do yours, but there's plenty of men who also have issues, and they just assume that they don't have any issues. Or my very favorite, he has children. How do you know they're his children? Haven't you guys heard recently, the things that have gone on where it's not his children? It doesn't mean anything. It does not mean that there cannot be a problem afterwards, you see. But that is the one thing that, is unfortunate. That is added on to the stressors of not being able to have a child. The thing everybody thinks is always the women. Even here, people come in and, I know it's me. And I go, no, it's not. You have to educate them. They assume that it's their fault. And society does not, get them off the bench either.
Wow. So interesting. At this point, Madam Mercy and Madam Lanu Fuja, you have the opportunity to share experience. But before that, would you want to ask any questions? Is there any question you want to ask? Other than that, we have to move to the experience sharing, because we are so much interested. So, Madam Mercy, is there any question you want to ask?
No, thank you. I don't have any question, please.
And how about Madam Lanu Fuja?
Yeah, I think I just want to chip in something to say, even based on what Doctor just said, even as couples as well, we also put pressure on ourselves.
Yes.
And so it's not only, from families or from the society, but even, I've got people who would say, I'm still looking for a male child. Where's that coming from? But anyway, what I would like to ask Linda is, so what's the level of education or awareness now in Ghana, in speaking now regarding, fertility space?
I wouldn't know, but of course, there's more education now, and people are more educated than before. So I am hoping that it's better. But as Dr. Sari stated, even there in America, if they are facing this challenge of all the ignorance, then probably not much will change in our part of the world. But I'm hoping that, things would have, at least there's a little more education. Something she said that really stuck with me, that 40% men, 40% women. So it's even. Infertility is even, and 20% unexplained. I knew the men had some, but I thought it was maybe 60-40 or something. I didn't know it was 40-40. That's serious.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know why we are the only ones sitting here having this discussion. The men should be here too. Wow. That's a lot.
Yeah,
because the stress is put on us.
That's why.
Yes.
We need to keep educating them as well.
Yes, yes, yes. And I think that, well, for them also, it's the society. So if you, as you put it, if you are shooting blanks or you have low sperm count, it means you are not a man. It doesn't mean that. So we need our men to be also open to talk about this. It's not the end of the world for you either. So women can go to the doctor and seek help. What about the men?
Well,
is it okay to, speaking to Dr. Na, is it okay to say that perhaps they've got no biological clock or?
That is very true.
Yeah.
And the fact is that it is important to seek help early. Success in infertility treatment is very dependent on age for the woman. It's very, very important. So I have patients, my Ghanaian and African patients who would, we're going to church, we are praying about it. And I said, that's very nice, but you do realize that God is the one who puts ideas in human beings' head to do some of these interventions that are available now. So if you do not go and you wait till you're 42 and 43 and 45, and all of a sudden it's an emergency, you may have lost your chance perhaps to have achieved something that you're looking for. But that is very important. The definition of infertility is trying to have a baby for 1 year without success. And that means, yes, you must have intercourse. So people who live in US and their partner is in Ghana and wondering why they are not getting pregnant when they go home for a month, I just laugh at them because it's like, you can't mail the sperm. So you have to be having intercourse, 2-3 times a week without protection. And if you do not get pregnant, then you go and snoop around. That is if you're less than 35. If you are over 35, it's 6 months. If you're over 40, as quickly as you can. And again, it's because the success rate is very dependent on age. Women, we are born with all our eggs. By the time you're 3 months old, all your eggs that you're going to ever have is made. Then the eggs start dying slow. You have 400,000 eggs when you're born. You only need a few in your lifetime, but the rest become hard-headed, as I tell people. They become hard of hearing. The men make sperm every 3 months. This is why you can have my grandfather, when he was 75, when he died, have 5-year-old children. But the difference was he did not have it with a 50-year-old woman. He had it with a younger woman. That is the difference. So the men feel like, they can go and do whatever. And I have a very sad case of a friend of mine who told her husband, let's go and check it out. Oh, nothing. And then when they moved back home, the family decided that, you're no good. And he went and got a younger woman and her children. But by then she was older. So yes, our biological clock is frankly ticking. And this is why menopause happens. At that stage, you have eggs, but you cannot use them. And so it is important when you try in the right way and you don't get pregnant to go and seek medical attention to see if there's anything. Some of the things are easily taken care of. Women who don't have regular periods, you can have, ovulation induction, very simple things, which by the way, in Ghana, it seems that's what they do for everybody. The doctors, I hate to say it, will not tell you the truth. They give everybody Clomid. It's like water pills. Everybody's on Clomid, and not everybody needs Clomid. If your periods are regular, you're ovulating, you don't need Clomid. But they give everybody Clomid, right? Some people need more than that. And there is more awareness, I think, down in Ghana. But like everything else, it costs money. So somebody who's now having to go and do a scan. A scan does not diagnose infertility. And they're scamming these poor women, and not doing what the right thing is, you see. Even when you're told what you have to do, if you don't have the money, you're kind of stuck. And people do not want to hear about adoption. It's amazing to me how a society where there are people such as me, who was raised by my mother's sister, my mother was alive. Family members will raise you, no big deal. But if you cannot have one and you mention try and adopt, it's like the horror of it. How dare you? That is just amazing to me. People do not want to hear it in our societies. And I think it's because the whole idea of you must have your own. You must have your own. Because otherwise you're less than, is part of it. But we take care of family members, So I don't understand that one. But I think that's the main reason. Over here, it's hard to adopt. People are willing to, but it's hard to adopt. In Ghana, you have plenty of people who cannot afford to take care of their kids. And I know the social welfare system makes it onerous, but you can, adopt people, but people don't want to hear it.
Yeah.
Well, interesting. Very, very interesting. So I want to read some messages before we come to share experience. We have Elizabeth Salifu, who posted a good afternoon to everyone. Elizabeth Salifu joining from Springfield, Accra. Looking forward to a fruitful discussion. Yes, I hope you're having that fruitful discussion and you're enjoying it. So we have a few hours. It's a good afternoon. And then Barbara, right? Great discussion, but have another meeting. Okay, Linda, congrats. Another issue is that if adoption is more accessible, acceptable, and financially feasible, that is a good option. Many have become pregnant, adopting, or fostering children in other places. That's from Barbara. And then Antonia Senam Fesu also writes, I appreciate this discussion. I'm particularly interested to know if this is also a global challenge. If you come to say financially stressful, yes. If you say yes, it's a global challenge. And maybe the doctor will have to tell us.
If you me.
Oh, you are a fear. Okay, that's okay. So I think that is very authentic. You are indigenous. You are in Ghana months. And then we have they don't like to go. Fidelia, who do not like to go?
The men.
I think you are referring to the men.
The men.
Hey, please calm down. I'm a man here. I'm the member of parliament for the men constituency, please.
You people should go to the hospital.
I'll tell my people.
Thank
I'll
you.
tell my people. And society must understand. That's Mary Maquintera says, right? Society must understand women and stop giving them pressure. Yeah. Some men are also of infertility. That's infertile. You'll hear. And then we have Benedicta also writes, wow, very informative session. Thank you, Linda. Susie Uncle writes, fruitful discussion, kudos. Somewhere 40-40, I think that is it, 40-40-20.
Yes.
Fidelia comes back to say, the men who, yes, we know the men. I'll talk to my men, don't worry. The men who, and then Benedicta comes back and say, I am 44, and the pressure, gosh, all able. Fidelia comes, they always think the problem is with the females. It's not easy at all. Antonia comes out to write, the reality of this discussion hit me when I got married. The findings are interesting. And then Chef Giftiya Asante writes, I am glad I joined. Thank you so much, mummies. So I think we'll come back to that. Some questions. I know we're going to react to this one. But Madam Larin Fuja and Madam Mercy Minta Jampu, some experience to share with us. So I think Madam Mercy, of course, we are moving out of, some people may think the writing is fiction, but let's hear from people who have experienced it. Madam Mercy, experience to share with us.
Thank you. You know, childlessness can be a very dull ache, and at the same time, a stubborn agony. that you will experience in your closet, in your privacy, or sometimes share with very trusted friends and family. And it comes with a lot of pressure. But I believe that if the couple, that is the husband and wife, do not put any pressure on either of them, then 50% of the pressure is off. And then you have the pressure coming from the extended family, the in-laws. I am very fortunate. I have a very loving, understandable husband. And when we got married, I got pregnant in the first month, but I had a miscarriage. And you know, life is going on, thinking that you've experienced your first pregnancy, so it will come again. Then 1 year passed, and each time you miss your period, let's say just even a day, you become anxious. You want to check if you are pregnant or not. And it's like you are walking on eggshells. And then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, you get your period and your whole world comes crashing down again. So it went on. I got pregnant again after 3 years. And when I missed my period, I didn't even bother to check because I didn't want to raise my expectations and then something happens. And at that time, we had gone on a vacation. So I had missed my period twice. Then one Saturday morning, we were going for a close friend's wedding. I started having this severe cramps. And within an hour, I lost that pregnancy as well. And it became, you know, it's like you don't even want to get out of bed. You just want to cry your eyes out. You don't want to speak to anybody. Then my husband would say, don't worry, God will do it. And, you know, as Christians, we are very spiritual about this. But we're just hoping. And it's a situation that if you are not careful, it will set you back in life because it can affect your work. It can affect your relationship with others. You can become very, very withdrawn. But I just tried, and I come from a very big family where I have so many nephews, nieces, grandnephews, grandchildren. And, you know, you see your nephews and nieces younger than you, they get married, they start having children. And that is where the problem lies. If you are not careful, you begin to harbor some ill feeling towards those who are having babies. And for me, I realized that no, I need to overcome this because what is happening to me is nobody's fault. It's by some unfortunate issue and it's happening. So I overcame all those things so that I can relate with people around me, friends and family, even people that, let's say I got married with them at the same time so that I can relate to them. Because if you are not careful, you wouldn't even want to go anywhere children are because of remarks and all those things. So fast forward, this went on and we decided that, look, we are going to move on with our lives. Go on, we pursue our dreams, our business, and then we see what happens in the future. But I know one thing that gave me a rude awakening was another close friend who had been married for over 10 years, and then they had a set of twins. Then within 2 years, the marriage was in chaos and the marriage broke up. And I'm like, wow. Because all along I was thinking that, oh, having children is what makes a marriage complete, what makes a marriage very successful, and that is what brings full happiness into the marriage. But then that made me reflect and I said, no, then it means it is not the end of the world. So I shouldn't let this distract me, lose my focus, and be like, that's the end of the world for me. So get on with life, do what you can do, and then leave the rest to God. With the prayer meetings and the fastings and the church prayers, it was so many. Anytime there's a prayer topic in church about those who need children, step forward to be prayed for. We'd have prayer meetings with family and friends all night praying. And as Linda said, Linda and I were in the same small circle praying for children. They know that is your need. Nobody needs to be told. This went on in and out. Through that period, I also tried with IVMs, fertility treatments. You go to hospitals and in Akan language, you can say people go for general, you know, because you need it so badly. And anything you are told. I remember went to meet this as a doctor who does herbal concussions and that. And he gave us these huge gallons. I really could relate with Linda's writing about, you look at the setting, and because you are so vulnerable, anything they give to you, you take it away to drink it. And this gallon was so bitter. And the worst thing was, they gave us, it was so huge, we had to drink everything within about 2 weeks. And we couldn't. And I'm like, it is sorry. I was like, so if we don't complete drinking this whole stuff, that means it isn't going to work. And at the time, I realized that there were some people even diagnosing wrong things, which were not right, because you go to this hospital and this gynecologist will say this, you go to another one and this gynecologist will say that. And I must say that we started seeking medical intervention after 10 years. So it went on, and then God being so good, in our 13th year, God blessed us with a daughter. And after my daughter, I stopped praying about having children. But just like Linda said, people will come and ask you, hey, it's when you've gotten one, won't you pray for a son? And I'm like, what else? Do you know what I went through to get this girl? And the pain is sometimes when you travel and you enter shopping malls with baby's clothing, oh my God. And the way it's set up, you know, you will be smiling, but you come home and you just break down. I would buy baby's clothes, hide them. I would buy maternity wear. Sometimes I'll just wear it saying that you go to church and they will say, exercise your faith. And I don't know, those who can identify with Hallelujah Challenge. Pastors just said, one day, act your miracle. So you dress in your maternity and then after months, nothing happens. Oh God, what else? So after I had my daughter, I just stopped praying. Then out of the blue, I missed my period twice, 2 months. And I'm like, I told my husband, I think I'm getting into menopause, early menopause. Then I go to the hospital, I check again, I was pregnant. I had a son. So all these made me learn that, you know, we should not put pressure on people who haven't had children. So there are 2 questions I learned never to ask people. 1, are you married? 2, how many children do you have? I never ask, because these are so sensitive that when you ask it, it will, I mean, you cause somebody to break down the whole day and send the person into some state of depression, which is very difficult. You know, I remember when I was just pursuing my business, I'll be traveling up and down. One day my auntie called me and she said, hey, stop traveling, because if you travel a lot, you can even have a miscarriage. Maybe you are pregnant. You don't know. So stop traveling, forget about business and sit down. All this money, when you get it, what are you going to have to use it for? You don't have children. How can you pass such a sarcastic remark? And I don't know, but maybe people are trying to help. But the way they carry the message across, it's better you even keep silent without speaking. So it's an experience that you wouldn't even wish for your enemy. But there were so many things I learned from this experience. 1, I developed patience because I realized that God has his own timing for things. And if it's not time, you can jump heaven and earth. It won't happen. But in his own beautiful time. And you begin to also learn some lessons that you can pass it on, just as we are doing now. We have had the experience, we've gone through the mill, and we are sharing it with others who may be in the same situation to encourage them that all is not lost. And a time will come, it will happen. But even if it doesn't happen, that is not the end of life. And I also pray that couples who are expecting, if you are experiencing any pressure from extended family, just cut them out. You know, try and just ward them off. Don't listen to them. Once the two of you understand each other, and if there's one person in the marriage who is putting pressure, we are praying and seeking that the person would understand that, as we are saying, it may not be the woman's fault, it could be the man's fault. But because it's always women, the pressure is on us. So it's good also to seek early medical intervention. Who knows, maybe through that, you may receive your miracle. Thank you.
Thank you. I have a couple of messages here, but I think those messages can help us with our conversation. So, but then let me quickly read. I think that once you started hitting at the men here have started to come out. So, Carl Ampah says men's self-seeking behavior is part of the problem. And sometimes the problem is with the men. That's good man. He's also a man. So confessing. Sometimes the problem is with the men. Low sperm counts, abnormal sperm cells, and a whole lot. But society blames the woman. There should be a lot more education that if there is an issue of infertility or difficulty in childbearing, both man and woman should bear the responsibility. We are too backward. So there's a question, and I think that question will help us with our conversation. But then before we move on to that, Madam Lanre Fuja, can they help us with your experience as well?
Wow. I tried to keep it short. But I'd say, I think, let me put it that I got married early. I think I was fortunate, let me put it that way, to have heard or listened to some other person's journey who had been waiting for many years, and suddenly it happened maybe after 13 or 15 years. So I just believed then that if that could happen to the big ants, then it was possible. So I would say I waited for about 6 years before I started seeking intervention. So in it all, I had about 7 IVF sessions. Because I did start early, so I recall the first session I had about 45 eggs, extracted, and of course, well, it didn't work. But then I would say I was prepared. Luckily for me, the white lady I met with at the first instance had, given me some prep talks to say, there are more chances about when you get your second trial as against the first trial. So I think I would say I was prepared. But also what I wanted to enjoy, I think then there were no frozen, the new concept of having your eggs frozen and all that. So I opted for those embryos to be given to people who were waiting on the list, looking for embryos to use, or eggs to use rather. So I went again. The second time, of course, before now, so of course I do align with a lot that Linda had shared in the book, talking about the herbal medicine, and also most especially when you go on your clinical checks and you see men in the room and, having to getting stuck then as to what do you do, and, just sort of things that unfortunately we had to go through in the course of all this before we decided we should go on the IVF journey. So the second time worked, but then I had the set of twins were at about 5 months, thereabout, and I had a miscarriage. Then I had to go for a fibroid operation. Now, in the course of this, I need to also mention that I used to have severe OHSS. That's ovarian hyperstimulation syndrome, where, I'm sure doctor would explain that to us, and oftentimes I had to have my tubes wrapped up, the drainage rather, wrapped up, because I worked in the financial sector. So I had to put down my blazer and get back to work. And of course, people see your tummy bloated and you're thinking, oh, they start talking, oh, well, and eventually they don't say anything after some, the fluids and all that have been released. So yes, of course, there were always pep talks there and there. But then in the course of those pep talks, apparently I also gave some people courage to go on that journey. People who had been quiet, didn't know what to do, they started coming out, So I would also want to say, in as much as people might not know how to talk, or times certain, conversation, certain comments also triggers certain things in us. So we shouldn't just, we shouldn't overlook all those side talks, but just pick what you think would be beneficial to your journey and just take hold of that and keep going. Then afterwards, again, I went back again for another session. Yes, same OHSS, then, my doctor had to start paying attention to my, I think the combination or the medication I was using anyway, just to manage that, but it would reoccur, but then level of the severance did vary over time. So in it all, I think I had about 7 IVF sessions. Then I had, after the third one, I had my daughter. And, but then of course, it was managed then, even though she still came out as a preterm. I think I had about 30 weeks. I recall then when you go to hospital, so expensive pregnancy. So they always put you on one side when you go for your clinical checks and antenatal. But so dealing with the preterm was also another thing I had to, it was another journey again. So, but we'll put that on one side. Then, of course, no pressure, but just as Linda said, oh, you want to have another kid sister or kid brother just to, double up in the house and all that. Then we went on that journey again. Now the body did not respond to the treatment. Then I recalled, so they had to abort at some point, we had to stop it. And just give it some more time before I went again. Then on the other attempt was when, I think suddenly on the day of the retrieval, there was nothing to get. Unfortunately, time given had lapsed, so I'd ovulated, and so we just had to go try to start the session all over again. Luckily, with age, well, we're able to get some quality ones after again, but then advent of frozen embryo. So we went on that to freeze the embryos. So that treatment also did not work, but then we had the frozen embryo, which I eventually used for my last son, who is 12 now. In it all, I would say that triggered me picking up, so started doing a lot of storytelling. So I'll be on the radio, collaborations with some other people to speak about, basically shattering the silence on, stigmatization around fertility was always the motive at that point. We'll go to churches, we'll speak, mosque, we'll speak, and most especially fertility clinics, where we tend to speak to couples who just want to embark on that journey. And most times you find people who are also willing to get, to speak to people who have gone on that journey, just, to prep their minds and also ask questions. So I often got invited, to be brand ambassadors for fertility clinics in Lagos. I think for me, yeah, different, maybe I would say stigmatization, I would say way back then in terms of social guidance, yes, it was always there. Cultural, yes. Family, agbo, you take agbo, that's what we call it here in Nigeria, yes, you would take it. But then I would say, likely to an extent, we've moved greatly from that, journey now, I would say, in Nigeria. But then the discussion, I would say, is more about speaking about surrogacy. I would even want to say adoption is something we've embraced or we welcome here, okay? But then also, yeah, some very stiff, process in going through that. But we're at the point of, of surrogacy. Yeah, and people are quite, a lot of people are quite open to it. But then I wanted to ask Linda about Ghana. Where are we on that? Even, you still talked about adoption. Is that still a challenge? Then, we still need a lot of work to be done. And also, yeah, talking about also challenge with, I think one of the challenges we also faced were how trained were the doctors, even in our fertility centers, or how regulated are the fertility centers here, even here in Nigeria. But however, we've even regulations have come to for where, the government have actually, set up strict rules around you just getting up and opening a fertility clinic. You understand? Because I believe you will see a lot of quacks, people trying to take advantage of we women. We're looking up to that. So I would say that my journey from beginning, I had the end in mind. From beginning, I knew it has worked for people and was going to work as well. But then having that resilience, just keep going and prayerful, of course. Just as Doctor said, that 20% is still there. So that's been my journey. That's been my story. And I'm definitely open, Linda knows, to working with Linda to basically, keep shattering whatever we can shatter when in Ghana. This journey of women, that pertain to us women. Thank you.
Thank you, Fuja. And Elizabeth Salifu writes, "Oh, you suffered." The emoji with a woman's hand on the head. Thanks so much. So I think this has been a wonderful session, and we haven't gone too far. We are not even past 1 hour 30 minutes, and we can't imagine the kind of content we have created, the kind of counseling and guidance and inspiration we have given to members. Until after this one, we will have to get it edited so that we make it available on other social media platforms. These are issues we hardly have people discuss, and that doesn't take away the fact that they are really happening. Thank you so much, panelists and Auntie Linda, for making this a wonderful session. It's now time for us to have conversation. But before we move to that, we have a question which I think we need to pay attention to. Maybe Doctor can help us with this small one. It's a question, please, and that's for Fidelia. How long or at what intervals should a man check his sperm count? So, Doc, can you help us? And any other panelists, if there's any about it.
You only need to check your sperm count when you're trying to conceive.
Okay,
you do not need to go and check your sperm count on a regular basis. It's not necessary. You only do it if you're trying to conceive and it does not work. So when you go and you check it, if there is a problem, they usually will repeat it to be sure that this is a correct reading of the situation. The sperm count can be influenced by many things: how often you have intercourse, how long you've abstained, and the count is not just the only thing. What the sperm look like, whether they're moving well, there are certain things they grade. So if you have a bad one, they don't immediately say, "Oh, this is it." I mean, unless you have, a very low, no sperm count. And even then, there's ways that you can get somebody pregnant. So they look, once you see that, they will send you off to the urologist, who will then work on you while they assess your partner, right? But it's not something that you must go and check your sperm count. Nowadays, with the internet, as I call it, Dr. Google, people go and do a lot of research, will come over and talk to doctors and goes, I want to check my fertility status. I want this test done. And they're talking about a particular test that is used to try and determine how well you're likely to respond to treatment. That test does not determine that you can get pregnant. So I, in particular, don't do it. People go, I want to see, it's called an AMH test. How many eggs I have left. How many eggs you have left does not determine whether you can conceive. And that doesn't determine what is going to happen tomorrow. So that is not, for men, you don't need to go and do a sperm count. And for women, you don't need that particular test unless you cannot get pregnant and you go and have to go through evaluation.
Okay, thank you, Doc. So, Fidelia.
Also, may I ask a follow-up on that same question? So,
yes.
In this part of the world, these days, and when couples are going to get married, they send them out to go and do some basic tests like HIV status, sickle cell, and so on. Do you think it's a good idea for fertility tests? But then you're also saying that the test doesn't necessarily mean that you can have children.
No.
Okay.
I don't think it is necessary, because I tell my patients, my assumption is that everybody can get pregnant until proven otherwise. Okay. Most people can get pregnant until proven otherwise. Most people who want to get pregnant can. Now, even the 1 year definition of infertility does not mean that there's something wrong with you. Some people will take a little longer before they get pregnant. And some people will get pregnant within a month. They're the show-offs on the internet. Oh, we all had sex once we got pregnant. You always hear the overachievers talking. But the reason you use a year is that even if, based on age, the chances of pregnancy per cycle, here's an egg, here's a sperm, go for it. Between 25 young people is maybe 50%, but the average is about 20%. So those who are doing all those fertility things and stuff, the chances of pregnancy is not 100%, it's 20. And that is why we use a year. So you must have the law of averages, so that after a year, if you haven't, then we say, let's go make sure there's nothing wrong with you. Now, I will tell you, with stressors of trying to get pregnant, and the first thing I tell people, for those who come and tell me, oh, I'm trying to get pregnant, I tell them, please don't do those temperature things. Don't go and get all those ovulation things and thought, because what it does is put stress on you. And I cannot tell you how many people, they come, oh, it's been a year, I'm not pregnant. And I go, okay, well, let's send you to the infertility people. This is what they're going to do. They kind of relax. A lot of them go there and they get pregnant on their own. The whole stress and just, I gotta be, doesn't work. Those who give up, adopt, get pregnant. I told Linda about this patient of mine who, after 10 cycles of IVF in this country, went to China. At the time, China was allowing adoptions, went and adopted the baby. Kid was on her hip. And that's when she got pregnant at age 42. It happens. So the whole stressors of just, I have to be, it does not help. And I tell people that getting pregnant is more difficult than you think. Because for me, as a gynecologist, if you come in, you're a young lady, reproductive years, first thing I'm talking about, what are you using for family planning? I'm always telling you, oh, try not to be pregnant until you're ready. So people assume once they decide that they want to get pregnant, it's boom. And it's not the case necessarily. Some people will, some people won't. But there isn't a test that you do to tell you that, oh, you can get pregnant. It is not. And the tests are invasive. Men's sperm count, okay, that one is easy. You ejaculate in the tube, okay. But for women, the dye test, and the endometrial biopsies and things, they're invasive. They're not so easy and they're painful. So it is not necessary unless you need to do it. So that's not necessary. Sickle cell test is good. I mean, that test is nice, but in Ghana, I'm not quite sure what they do with that test, because if you already found your partner and he's sickle cell trait and you're a trait, what are you going to do? Leave him? HIV and infection tests, I think, are useful. But the sickle trait stuff is, I guess it's important for you to know that you have a chance of having a baby with sickle cell disease. So.
Thank you so much. This question is begging for an answer. And it's from Chef Gifty Yasansi, and I think social as well. She says, I am single and struggling to have a good relationship because all the men I meet lately say I need to get pregnant for them before they get married to me. Because I'm 38 years and they are scared and not sure I will get pregnant after marriage. This has left me in a very confused and depressed state. What do I do in this situation? Thank you kindly in advance for a solution.
I hate to say this, there isn't a solution because either the person wants to marry you because they love you. If they're looking for somebody to have babies, then just go make a baby with somebody. If they want to marry, they should marry you no matter what. I mean, if they marry you and God forbid you get sick, are they also going to leave you? So this one is, if you do not want to have a baby out of wedlock, that is difficult. I'm not sure how you solve this particular issue. The thing you must know is that it's unfortunate, but if you could save your eggs, you could, and then you could just take the time and find your partner. And then when you're ready, you could use them. But that also is a very expensive proposition. And around here, they don't even save eggs after 35. But that is one option of patients who have not met anybody and are worried about fertility will basically cryopreserve, save their eggs, so that in the future, if they meet somebody, they have eggs that are younger, and if they don't get pregnant spontaneously, can use your own eggs. But I don't know how you deal with somebody who's telling you, get pregnant for me, and before I marry you. What's the guarantee that they will even go through with stuff? I'm not sure how you solve that one, Chef.
If I may add, I think that if you want to have a child for you, not for anybody. Because we've seen cases, I just dealt with a case last week, a young woman, she's young, 20s, early 20s. She met this guy and he told her the same thing. She had a child. Now she doesn't even see the man. And so hates the baby and hates the man as well. So if you want to have a child, have it for you, not for anybody. And if, just like Dr. Sari said, if they love you, they should marry you, the person. And if by God's grace, you are able to have a child, hallelujah. But I don't even understand this.
Any more solution? Is Gifty around? And I think Gifty is not the only one going through this situation. So like I said, I think once we edit this one, we get it across. We are just hopeful that we have more of these sessions.
I think Elizabeth Salifu has raised her hands too.
Okay, so Salifu. Anyway, we are in the conversation.
Yeah, thank you so much. I think I agree with Madam Linda. I think she has to decide what she wants. So does she want a kid or kids, or she wants a husband? So if she chose to want a husband, then that is where the marriage comes in. And of course, if you marry, there's a possibility of children or not. And the husband would have to stick in tough time or whatever. But then if she decides that I want kids, then she can go out of wedlock and have her kids, but then the responsibility is solely on her. So I don't also buy this idea of have kids for me before I marry you. What is that?
You'll disappear.
Thank you.
Okay, so we are now in a conversation mood. When questions come, we can look at them, but throughout, some part of our panelists have spoken their voices. We've heard them. They have given their views. You have heard from the author. So it's now time for our audience. What do we bring to center for conversation? Any question to any of the panelists? You can just raise your hand and then we give you the floor, either the panelist or the author. Or there is something you want to bring on board for discussion. We have some few minutes. Let's use that minute for that conversation. It's now time for the conversation.
Yes, please. I have a question, please, or a contribution.
Okay, that's fine. Go ahead.
My name is Rosemary Asante. My name is Mrs. Asante. And I realized with this fertility issue, I realized that women try a lot, and in the long run, they are able to get the children. Then what happens to the rest of us? I will add myself as one of those people. I've been married for 20 years. I don't have a child. Because when at a certain point, I was getting tired with going to this hospital and people just messing you up. So I made up my mind that, look, I'm not going to go through this because I was reading law at the time and I didn't have time to be doing that. So at a point I stopped. But it takes the grace. It takes the grace to be in a relationship where you have tried so much and the children are not coming and you are able to, look after people's children. One of the ladies was talking about the fact that you have small sisters, nieces and nephews who are growing up. But the thing is that you have to love them as your own. Now, the second thing, one of the questions that the lady who's from Nigeria is how easy it is to adopt. In Ghana, if you want to adopt, apart from the social welfare, I know that you have to make an application to the High Court. You just can't just go and adopt unless it's the normal one that has to do with family one. That one is not a problem, but you have to go through the proper process. But I don't think it's that difficult. So for me, the question now I'm asking, for those of us who are still or who still don't have children, the question is like we are left in the back. And for me, I've told myself that I'm going to be an advocate for those people till they have the children. And if they don't have, what if they don't have? Life must still go on. Life must still go on. So that's my comment. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Rosemary. Then we have Susie's hands up. Susie.
All right. Hello.
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 Okay. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Auntie Linda. Thank you so much, Doc. In fact, these discussions have been very fruitful. My name is Dr. Susie Anku, and the little submission that I want to make is that I know it's not easy to wait in a society such as ours without having children. In fact, I have very, very close family members that are still battling with issues like that. And even personally, I have had experience with this as well. But I just want to say that there is always a life beyond infertility. Okay. And the earlier we start having these conversations and start letting people know that there is life beyond infertility, so that your life does not come to a standstill and everything you do just involve around doing everything all your life just to have a child, and then all other aspects of your life becomes a standstill. It drains. It drains. And I just also want to say that now we have a lot of interventions, medical interventions that are available. So the earlier, the better. That is, if you want to have a child. If you start, like doctor said, infertility, we define it as having a regular intercourse for a year, and then unprotected, of course, and then you are not having a child, then we can say you are infertile. But even in that context, you can see that some people long distance. One is in Accra, the partner is in Kumasi, or even they are in the same household. They don't know ovulation. They are not having sex regularly. You may be having the sex, but you may not be having it within the window period or the ovulation period to get pregnant. A lot of people do not know this stuff. Okay, so I just want to encourage people that if you really want to have a child, I mean, as early as possible. Don't wait till 6 years, 10 years, 12 years. There are a lot of options. If it is an adoption, you adopt it as early as possible, and you know that this is what I have come to it. If it's a surrogacy, if you have to do an IVF, you go into it as early as possible. So there's always a life beyond infertility, and our women should not be given the pressure that all their lives they have to do everything possible to get a child, even at the cost of their life. It's very heartbreaking to see that. And I think this conversation, like we said, we should extend it to the men also. The men should also have a forum like this so that they'll be able to learn about these issues of infertility and then also support the women in the home as time goes on. Thank you so much. I really enjoyed the discussion, and I want to say that God richly bless all of you. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
If I could say something, thank you for bringing up the issue of doing as soon as you're able to. Unfortunately, with our advancement in infertility treatment on the continent, what we are seeing here in this country are women who are much older, going there, getting embryos, getting pregnant with 2, sometimes 3, and coming back here. Twin pregnancies or multiple pregnancies is not a success. It is dangerous. And it is dangerous, particularly in older women. And, I recently delivered somebody who's 55 with twins. She's happy as a clam, donor egg, donor sperm. And all I'm thinking about is you're 55. These children will be 15 when you're 70. If you're not blessed to live long enough, who's going to take care of the children? So this is something that should have been done when she was younger. Maybe there wasn't the means to do it. But, they go down there and there are no rules determining the ethics of, embryo transfers. So you see this, I call it silliness, or people coming back with, triplets and quads and things and getting dumped on the obstetricians. And it's not a success. It is not good. That is not done no longer in this country. Or those who are given drugs and go have sex and you have multiples. And it's not a good thing. I had a family member who died in her 40s, did IVF, and basically became very sick and died. So the earlier you can do it, the better. And people should go to places, hopefully, that there are some rules and regulations. I'm not sure that there's any rules or regulations in our dear country, the ethics of it. And people are desperate that they do anything. But yes, if you have the means and you're able to, I think we should educate people that the sooner you do it, the better it is. This young lady I'm talking to you about got donor egg and sperm. She has no history about the donor, of the male or the female. So you have these children, you don't know any family history, you don't know anything. All she knows is that she's pregnant. Over here, you at least will know the history and know what you're getting. And just as an aside, I think Nigeria is way ahead of Ghana in terms of being open about undergoing IVF and infertility treatment. My Nigerian patients are very open. They will tell you, hey, I went here, it was good, go do it. Ghana is still, people will not fess up. They won't tell you. I have one person who was told by her mother-in-law, I don't want a bottle baby. But she did IVF, she had one, but the mother doesn't know. Unfortunately, afterwards, she had other children. But, if she had listened, she would not have started and hopefully been blessed with more. But we are very hush about things. I mean, this is a country where even people have cancer, they don't want you to say anything. And you have family members, who can benefit from knowing this history. So Nigeria is way ahead of the curve about this one. Kudos to you guys. Because I have patients who come back there all the time. And they will tell their friends, I went to this clinic, they did the stuff, and they'll direct them. I don't think that's the case for Ghana as much. Yeah.
Thank you, Dr. Sorry. I also wanted to make a comment on Rosemary. Rosemary, we are so proud of you. Oswald said what the MP for the men constituency. We, the MPs of the women constituency, we are very proud of you because just like what Asari said, in this part of the world, everybody is hush-hush about these things. But you are bold, you are confident. That is so applaudable. Thank you. Because truly, not everybody will have children. Truly, not everybody will have children. And some have decided, other jurisdictions, some women decide not to have any at all. So I'm really proud of you. Thank you. Thank you. It's a big encouragement to some of our women here, even on the platform right now. Thank you.
I would like to chip in there. Thank you so much, Doctor. I think it's something that can also happen in Ghana as well. It's about, just as I said, storytelling. How well do you tell the story? What medium, what platform are you using to share the stories? So people can connect and also feel free to speak out or even, run to you. Okay. So I think it's something you can begin slowly to infuse. You can even start from your churches, from women gatherings, radio platforms and all that. And also back here as well in Nigeria, the government also, some fertility clinics as well have also worked with the government where we subsidize treatments, for people on this journey. So it's something out there that there's really nothing to be, shy about. So I think it's something you need to start from comfort of your home. Let's just start that storytelling. So you can begin to welcome and let people feel encouraged to come out and even get educated out. So even just as Dr. rightly said, talking about ethics, way back when I started my own journey, the particular hospital I used then, Brick Clinic, they will not infuse more than 2 at any given point in time because of the risk. So you can't just walk in and say, oh, I want triplets, I want to have, no. So that is there. So I think it's something you can start, Linda. It's a drive, a course you can actually achieve. Thank you.
People, let me give you a story about a patient of mine who was Kenyan, and her husband, they had infertility and it was a male factor. So through unfortunate things, the husband ended up in Kenya. She was here. She was getting older. And she decided, you know what? I want a kid. So she arranged with a friend of hers. She got pregnant, had a kid. And when she came to me, I'm like, oh, the husband came back. She says, no, I just decided to do it. I was like floored. And her husband was trying to make noise about, you went and had somebody else. You know who? Her mother-in-law told her husband, shut up and go and claim your family. And later on, the husband got a visa permanent residency in Canada. So the woman and the baby moved to Canada with her husband. The mother-in-law, I'm sitting here, I'm going, there's no Ghanaian woman who would say, She went. I just had another patient, older woman, younger guy, and she has a child and she is depressed as hell. They've tried everything and she's very upset. And I've told her straight up, you need donor eggs. Nobody has mentioned it yet. And me and my joke, Linda knows me, I'm very funny. I said, Madam, either you leave the husband so you can find a younger woman or you get donor eggs. Nobody has to know. And you can have your family and you'll be good. She's getting it from her mother. She's getting it from his mother. And the husband is like, oh, let's just keep waiting. But you're 42, madam. You're not getting younger. It's not working. So you need to do what you can if you want to stay married. I straight out told her, you need donor eggs. When you go tell them I said you need donor eggs because you've tried IVF 3 times, it's not working. And it's not his male factor. Right? So there are people who are, even here, they're hesitant to tell you things that you may need until you're ready to hear it, right? But that Kenyan one, I'm telling you, I was floored. They're in Canada, living happily together.
My question is to doctor. Maybe I should just ask. Maybe I might be touching some person's mind there, or speaking on behalf of some person. At what point is there? Let me put it this way. At what point do you need a donor egg? Is it attributed to age, aside factored or maybe
It is.
time, and is there any age?
It is very much dependent on age. As I said, as you get older, your eggs become what we call fecundity, the ability to conceive decreases. So if you're already going because you're not getting pregnant, you already have an issue. And when you go, nowadays there are tests that are done that predict whether you will respond to the treatment. But response to the treatment does not say pregnancy. So IVF centers, what we're really looking at is not you getting pregnant, it's whether you're going home with a baby, right? They can get you pregnant, but whether you're going home with a baby. So it's very much dependent on the individual, but that is also dependent on age. So as you get older, your eggs just don't respond as well. And the centers are interested in success stories. So over here, they are not going to just do it because you pay them. They want you to sing their praises to somebody else. So if you come, you're 48 and say, hey, I want to do IVF. If somebody just wants money, they will do it, knowing damn well it's likely not going to work, right? So when you do after a bit, they look at the quality of your response and stuff like that. And they can tell you, somebody may need donor eggs as young as 35. But if you're looking overall, statistically, it's more likely to be the case as you get older. There was a time in this country, they wouldn't even take you as an IVF patient if you're over 42. Now they will, but you should know that you're more likely to not to respond. And in that case, they will tell you if you want to do it, get donor eggs.
So it means that as you grow older, the quality of the eggs diminishes. Is that
Yes. Okay. The quality of the eggs diminish. Like I said, you're born with all your eggs. So we are not making new ones. And every month, a few of them will get picked and you release one or two, the rest are there. And then they become kind of more resistant to doing the right thing. This is also the reason you're more likely to have genetic abnormalities when you are older, right? So a 45-year-old is more likely to have a baby. I'll use Downs because that's what we know. Trisomy 21, as a common thing that lay people can identify. You're more likely to have that as you are older compared to when you're younger. It doesn't mean that young people don't have it, but less likely in a young person, right? So yes, they become harder. They don't behave as well. They are less likely to respond. And that's what happens. So really our time is taken. And this whole number of 35 is a statistical thing that is used. It's not that at 35 you can't have children. It just becomes less often. I've been in practice, if you count medical school, since 1989. I've only had one person conceive spontaneously at age 49. I have many 40s, 40, 41, but not many people getting pregnant in their 40s. Young people plenty. And that's because fecundity, which is the ability to conceive, decreases as you get older, right? So same thing for IVF. But if you are a younger person and for some reason you cannot conceive, there is something going on where you need some assistance. And that can also determine whether they tell you to get somebody's eggs. They can tell you. If you don't respond to stimulation, my sister who had 45 eggs, that was a younger person. Older people may not. You may have one good quality eggs that can be retrieved. So that also becomes the issue as you get older.
Okay, I have a quick question again, Doctor. So over here, where now we're at the point where we're doing what's called you freezing your eggs, all right? Mm-hmm. Now, what would you say? Because I have heard that it's better when you have a frozen embryo, the quality is better, and at the point maybe of usage, it's you might get better response as against when you just freeze your eggs.
You mean fresh cycle versus frozen embryos?
Yes.
I have not heard that. I have not heard that. I mean, I think the ability is that based on what you have to go through for this process, it is good that if you get enough embryos that you're able to at least preserve them as opposed to the past where you had to discard them. But I'm not sure that one is better than other. And I mean, if that was the case, they would jump on here and say, everybody come do it, and then, save your eggs and then come back later. I have not heard that. I'd be happy to check and get back to you because I have friends who do this for a living, but I have not heard that. No, I don't think that's the case at all. I think it's a matter of being able to preserve some embryos so that at the future, you don't have to go through the process all over again. For example, what you went through, what's the ovarian hyperstimulation syndrome? When you do IVF, you're trying to recruit a lot more eggs. And if you, depend on how you respond, your eggs balloon, instead of being, 2 inches, they can look like, big watermelons. And that has medical consequences associated with it, So that is not a good outcome for IVF, but some people can do that. But for you, if you had that many eggs and a lot fertilized, you could have saved it. And in that case, you don't have to go through the whole process again, which will save your eggs. I mean, save your health. Yeah.
I think Matthew Che has had his hand up for a while. Yeah.
Yeah. Let my colleague MPs also feature in Parliament.
Hello, sorry, it's Josephine Che. I'm traveling, so my network. This is Josephine Che. Sorry, I'm traveling and my network is not stable, so I had to use my husband's phone. But he's been listening in
so
as
in
well.
In the voice of your husband, right? Okay, go ahead.
I'm with him. He's been listening in as well.
Okay.
Yeah, all right. So I'm a researcher. I'm a lecturer at University of Ghana School of Nursing. And my research is focused mainly on individuals experiencing infertility, as well as issues about assisted reproduction. And so I've been very much interested in these areas. I have 2 quick comments before my network goes bad again. So I want to say thank you to our panelists for this wonderful discussions that we are having. But my question is, how many people are listening or are in this discussion? There are thousands of women there that need this very much. And so at the end of my proposals, I will advocate for a lot of these discussions to go on in our public sectors. I mean, markets and all that, in languages that they will understand. So my first comment would be on the spiritual aspect. I did a research to find out from these women, especially because we are all talking about the men. We don't see them. If you want to conduct research with men in this area, you hardly will get them. And that is the issue about men seeking health care. It's all over, not just this area of infertility. So one of the things that women mentioned was coping with spiritual, aspects. They take that very high, that they cope with religion. And this is a case that they have also indicated that, they get stigmatized when it's being mentioned at church. So how do we balance it? What do we do? Is it going to the churches to educate them? Because there are some women, majority of them that I have studied, said that they cope well with spirituality. So what can we do when it comes to issues about religion and church that has come up strongly here? That is one. The other aspect that I want to comment is the issue that came up. I think Auntie Linda mentioned in her book that they mentioned that we should not ask. I have had people who, after decades of conceiving, one day they get pregnant and said they wish someone had asked them what they were going through, or someone had spoken to them to give them some kind of support. So again, how do we draw this line in our society where some people think that, oh, I need a support, I need someone to talk to me in a nice way. And then the aspects that people also say, let me mind my own business. Where do we draw the line? Because I have experienced people who really wanted someone to have asked them a question. I remember when I got pregnant, after 2 years before I got pregnant, the day my pastor tapped me and my husband to ask what is going on, that day I had tested positive for pregnancy. Personally, I was excited that he had been thinking about me, probably praying for me in secret, not the type that will call you to come and stand in the front of the church, to lift your hand up because you were not conceiving. So I'm concluding by saying that we need a lot of advocacy. We need to speak out. I tell people that someone goes to the hospital for hypertension, someone goes for diabetes to be treated. So when I have issue with infertility, why can't I go to the facility? Nobody stigmatized me for that. We need a lot of education out there. This 40-40 we are talking about, how many Ghanaians know that, 40% of diagnosis is male, female. I also am part of Fertility Society of Ghana. That is one of the issues or one of the things we want to break in society, is to make our voices heard in our marketplaces, in our churches. And so as part of this, I will also entreat us to find a way of going out there to educate the public that this one is also a peculiar issue, and we need to accept people like that and not maltreat them or stigmatize them. Thank you.
Thank you. May I comment on that, Oswald? So I think that in your own case, you were happy when Pastor approached you. It's good, maybe because it was 2 years into it. That's not too long. In my own case, it was over 10 years. Mercy was even longer. Larry was 6 years. So Pastor calling you one time, that's not bad. But when he begins to call you a number of times, and then the elderly women in the church, that you get tired after a while. But I also agree that some people might want, that kind of reach out. But I feel that, yes, let's create the space and allow them to come in if they want. Create the environment and let them come if they want. And like this program we're doing now, we sent the invites out there. Those who were interested to join, they have come. You see, so I think that there's so much we can do. We do our best to put it out there, but if people are not also willing to meet us halfway, that becomes a bit difficult. But we will do our best to put it out and try and talk about it more and more, because it's not an area that's easily spoken about. I speak about this, I speak about rape in my book as well, because I've been through that as well. And so these are areas that typically are taboos in our country. And so it's not the easiest topic to even discuss. Even getting people to discuss is difficult, because hush, nobody wants to bring their stories out there. But I agree with you, the more we put it out there, the better for everybody, because then the women are empowered, they understand their conditions, they will appreciate and know what to do. So we will do our best. And I think with all the support we from your end as well and others, we will reach as many as we can. Thank you. There's a question.
When it comes to, go ahead.
So there's a question in there that I was going to direct at you, Dr. Sorry. So you can make your comment and address that. I think there's a lady, Oswald, maybe you read it to her after she makes a comment. Dr. Sorry, please take it.
Oh, no, I was just going to say, when you can't have children, who do they blame? Your mother, the witches, and all the rest of them. It's always somebody's fault. In Ghana, healthcare deficits are blamed on spiritual matters. So the spiritual matters that can help us are also sometimes the ones that hinder you, because you're sitting there thinking somebody is the reason for it. It is not, because of a medical condition. If you can't have children, I told my mother, I said, you're getting gray hairs. Make sure people can do stuff. Not you have gray hairs and what you obey for. The reason for things that happen. If somebody dies because of malpractice, it's never because we, the physicians, perhaps didn't do something right. It's because somebody did it. It ties everything up very neatly for us. Talking about people being, hustled. The young man who lives in my house in Ghana, been married maybe 6 months, and he called and they're already hustling them. Where's the baby? Where's stuff? And I had to, calm him down. And there's a church people who are doing it. It's very unfortunate. But what's the question?
So I think the question was about, I think it was a question that I posed to you about the fertility, the eggs, the quality of the eggs as we grow older.
Oh, yes.
I don't know if you've seen that.
So what happens is that, like I said, women are born with, by 3 months of age in your mother's belly, 12 weeks of pregnancy, you have 2 million eggs. By the time you're born, you have 400,000, which is more than enough. So it's not that you don't have any eggs. They just become more resistant to the normal physiologic processes. This is why menopause happens. So menopause is when you lose the ability to now be able to, release an egg and get pregnant, right? And that process is ongoing. So there isn't a straight cutoff. It just keeps kind of going on. So as you get older, it is more difficult for you to get pregnant. It's not that you don't have any eggs. If I take out eggs of an older woman at a hysterectomy and we section them, there's eggs there. They're just not as responsive. You are more likely to respond to the normal physiologic monthly things the younger you are, And so, yes, if everything is great for you, you have your husband and the rest, the younger you are, the better. But it does not mean that you cannot get pregnant at age 40 or 45, but you must realize that compare you yourself to you 10 years younger, the chances decrease, right? So that's what goes on.
Thank you, Dr. Sari. I will have to say goodbye to Lanre. Lanre has a flight to catch. Thank you so much. I know the traffic in London at this time. So thank you. Safe journey. We're grateful for your contribution, and we'll touch base with you again shortly. Bye. Yeah, so I think we'll take a few more questions and then it's time. It's time. We're ending at 5:30 and it's 5:29. I think we could probably go on and on and on and on, but we have to end at some point. So our panelists, if you have a few words to share quickly, and then we can just round up. But Dr. Sari, I just wanted you in your final submission, if you can mention some things that we can do to help us improve our fertility. I don't know whether I can call it fertility life or whatever we call it. Is that something that we can do to improve it? Is there hope for somebody who has tried is there something else that they can do? So if you can share that with us in a very short time.
I mean, in general, keeping yourself as healthy as you can, in terms of, weight, exercise, our diet and stuff in general is good. After all, if you get pregnant, you want those things to be in good order. I'm not sure there's something you can do to quote unquote improve your fertility, because largely it is not in your control, right? The only thing that's in your control are for people, there are certain things that would affect your menstrual cycles. So excessive weight gain, okay, or stress, or people who lose a lot of weight, which I don't see as a problem in our society, can affect menstrual cycles. So stress is one, which is difficult when everybody's looking at you, just trying to survive in our Ghana nowadays is stressful, right? I always tell people it's amazing that we end up being able to, ovulate and make a normal human being when you realize how complicated everything is. It is very complicated, but most people who try will get pregnant. I would not go, and again, as I said before, immediately tell people to start doing time intercourse or anything of that stuff, unless you're somebody who's way older, because I think that puts more stress on you. And I know that stress contributes to infertility in some people. So there's no need to immediately, if you're just trying to, conceive, go and get all those ovulation predictor kits and the basic body temperatures and all the rest of it. It makes it joyless, and most people don't need that. To me, just keep yourself as fit as you can. If you go to the doctor and they tell you, decrease your weight or what I'm not sure they'll say that in Ghana. Over here we will, but don't take it as an offense. Try and do that for yourself. But in general, I think just reducing food. The thing that is in our control is stress. Don't stress too much until you need to stress, right? So those of in this country, 50% of our pregnancies are quote unquote not planned. Although a lot of them are now using birth control, they say they're not trying. To them, when they decide to start trying is when they say, okay, I want to get pregnant. Meanwhile, they're sexually active and using nothing. So to me, you're doing the same. My joke is usually, what would you do different? Same thing. So you should be. And if you are in the reproductive years, even if you are not trying to get pregnant, but are not using contraception, you should be taking a multivitamin with folic acid daily. Okay, you must take that 3 months before you get pregnant. What typically happens is that people get pregnant and they call, I need my folic acid. The reason for the folic acid is to decrease the incidence of malformation of the spine. And you need to take it 3 months before you get pregnant. So if you are not using anything, but quote unquote, you're not trying to be pregnant, you are. So just do the right thing by taking the multivitamin D. I tell everybody, just take it. It doesn't hurt and it's useful if you happen to get pregnant before you decide you want to be. Keep yourself fit, keep your weight down, go get your blood pressure checked, make sure you're good, and keep us all in business. Obstetricians.
Thank you so much. Mercy, any last words?
All I want to say is when it happens that you are trying to have a baby and it's not happening, because sometimes they have gone through all those medicals and still it is not happening. That's not the end of life.
Nope.
Don't let it set you back. Don't let it distract you. Just stay focused, be positive. Because just as Dr. Sari said, stress is a contributing factor for not getting pregnant. So as you take off the stress, you take your mind off it and stay focused on other things. By the time you realize it's happened. Thank you.
Thank you, Mercy. I think Larry, you haven't left yet. Oh, anyway. So I had stress, I had weight gain and loss, I had exercises and all of that. So general health is good. Not only to get pregnant, but for our overall health is important. So I want to thank you so much, Dr. Sari. Thank you. You're always willing to share and to help us do better as women. Thank you for your time. I know you're a busy woman.
Problem. You can share my contact if you, WhatsApp is good. If somebody has a question, I'm happy to.
I'll put it in the chat right now.
Yeah, I'm happy to. Don't wake me up in the morning at 5 a.m., but I will. But you can test me, and if I can be of help.
Let me tell the group here, this doctor has no bedside money, so please, if you want, this is where you go. She will not sugarcoat it. She will tell you as it is. So you want, once you're good with that, that's it. She's not a psychologist.
I'm coming to Ghana in May. We can chit chat.
Right. Yes. In fact, we could do another live one, where we can sit together and have a nice conversation on our health.
No problem. I'll let you know.
Thank you.
All right.
Nancy, thank you so much. I know you're also very private, and I've pushed you to share your story. Thank you. And thank you, Oswald, for...
Thank everybody.
Yes, thank you, Oswald, for always helping me put this together. I'm so grateful. You always encourage me, and I'm grateful. And Daniel, I don't know where you are, but I'm sure you're back there somewhere. I don't know if you want to... Do you have something to share before we go?
No, not really. Yeah, but I've really enjoyed so much insight, and I believe that we could share. Our encouragers all to share the recording to other people who may benefit from it, because these are a very insightful session. So yeah, let's keep sharing. Let's share the link when we are done with the session. Thank you.
All right. So thank you so much. Can you please put the pieces of the portrait in the chat so that people are asking where they can find the book? You can get it on Amazon. And Pieces of the Portrait by Linda Ampah. So thank you. So Daniel, if you can put it in there for us. Thank you so much. We've gone over our time, but I think it's been very fruitful. It's been very educative. And we are going back home to share with our sisters and our brothers, the men's Wednesday. Share it with them. They should go and check. Daniel, tell your people.
Yeah, I'll do that.
So thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you too, Linda. And thank you to Dr. Sari.
Thank you. My pleasure, everybody.
And Larry.
I'll come see you guys in Ghana when I come.
Yes.
All right.
Bye.
Bye.